This is Shannonville Motorsport Park and site of the third race of the Castrol National Superbike Series, the Kawasaki Superbike Challenge. Hello everybody, I'm Pat Gonzalez and welcome to a warm but overcast Shannonville Motorsport Park. We've got two very exciting races all set to go, beginning with the Pro 600 production final and then a little bit later on our feature race, the Kawasaki Superbike Challenge. With me as always, Craig Hill of Castrol Canada, and Craig, Steve Crevier and Team Kawasaki are trying to make this a runaway for the championship.
Well, you got to remember, Pat, there's going to be an awful lot of added pressure both on Crevier and on Michael Taylor this weekend. This is a Kawasaki weekend, and up there in the stands there's an awful lot of Kawasaki fans wearing green hats. They want to see their product win, so the pressure goes all the way down the line. Tuner Harold Sarian and Tony Russell, they both got to make these bikes just absolutely perfect this weekend because they want to see them win.
Well, Steve Crevier has been just about perfect. He won the pole position here at Shannonville at the opener and the race. He repeated that performance during round 2 out at Calgary's Race City Speedway. Now, yesterday's qualifying heat was a very, very competitive one. Steve did win it to take the 2 points and the Sunoco Gold pole position. But the race for second place was incredible. Number 26, Lindley Clark on the Rick Hobbs Yamaha was able to grab second just ahead of Mike Taylor on the other Kawasaki, and then Jeff Gaynor on the Suzuki Canada machine finished in 4th, but back in 5th was Johnny Ramsey. This should be the most competitive Superbike race we've had so far, Craig.
Well, you know, the heat's not only building up on the track, Pat, but it's heating up off the track, too, because the marketing and PR departments of all the major manufacturers have got behind this thing. Suzuki's here with a big bandwagon this weekend, you know, and Yamaha are involved and Honda are involved, and they're all there with big contingency monies. And the people that win are you, our viewers, and the fans in the grandstands, because it makes for great racing when the manufacturers get involved the way they are now.
Well, the race here this weekend marks the halfway point in the series, and here's how the point standings look. Steve Crevier has 36 points going into today's final. In second place is Benoit Pilon of Quebec aboard his Yamaha. He has 18. Lindley Clark is in third with 14 points, followed by Michael Taylor, Jeff Gaynor, Steve Wykes. Then it's Sean Smythe, Peter Holzinger, James Perot, and Peter Marsh.
And, Pat, we got a couple of cats among the pigeons this weekend. Ruben McMurder has given his bike over to the veteran John Ramsey from Halifax. And, you know, I talked to Ruben earlier, and Ruben said to me, this is really a warm-up for Shubenacadie, where John's going to be very, very strong. And, of course, there's Mario Duhamel back. Mario's been running in the World Endurance Championship, and I expect him to be right in amongst the leaders on this weekend particularly, Pat.
Well, Craig, undoubtedly this will be the most competitive of our Superbike races so far. Our first event this afternoon will be the Pro 600 production race. Now, yesterday in the qualifier, Vancouver's Steve Mckissock fell in the S's. The race was red flagged. Once it got started again, number 1, defending champion Lindley Clark, was involved with a great three-way fight involving number 16, Peter Fordham Wilson, and rookie number 12, Owen Weichel. The 3 riders were just bike lengths apart throughout, but at the checkered flag, it was Lindley Clark with the win, Owen Weichel getting around Peter Fordham Wilson in Allen's corner on the last lap for second, and Peter Fordham Wilson taking third. Tragically, Steve Mckissock, who was transported to a nearby hospital in Kingston, died as a result of his injuries. Our sympathies go out to the entire Mckissock family and Steve's friends. Canada has indeed lost a very talented rider. We'll be back at Shannonville Motorsport Park with our first race of the afternoon, the Pro 600 production final, in just a moment. Welcome back to Shannonville Motorsport Park and the Kawasaki Superbike Challenge. The motorcycles are on the starting grid for our Pro 600 production final. This should be a good one. Look for the Calgary winner, Owen Weichel, number 12, to be right at the front, along with the Yamahas of Lindley Clark and Peter Fordham Wilson. Now here's Craig Hill with a full starting grid.
And that's Lindley Clark on the pole, and beside him, the rookie sensation, Owen Weichel. Then it's Fordham Wilson and Monroe. On row 2, we have Chuck Downey from Alberta, along with Ontario's James Perot and Tim Sampson from Halifax.
Row number 3 has Mark Kowalski and Sean Griffiths, along with Mark Mazenhoff, all on Hondas. Mike Hammond, the lone Yamaha rider in that 3rd row. And in the 4th row, it's Clyde McDonald on a Honda and Phil Hines. riders revving up those machines. All eyes focused on the starting lights here at Shannonville as we're about to go on green to get this one away. The riders off the line into turn one, and it's 32 Don Monroe grabbing the early lead. They go 3 wide out of turn one in the race for second, but Monroe 32 away quickly and out in front. Owen Weichel 12 side by side with Peter Wilson, and Weichel will come through on the inside to take second, but here comes Wilson battling right back. The 2 riders run wheel to wheel through turn 3, and Wilson able to hold on to second. Weichel running third, but it's 32 Monroe, your leader, as they come into the carousel, and Weichel slicing through on the inside. The rookie Weichel up into second. Wilson, number 16, running in third. Then it is number 1, national champion Lindley Clark back in fourth. Well, I second, but here comes Weichel. He continues to try to charge back up to the front. Number 1, Lindley Clark, sitting there in the 4th place position. So it's 2 Yamahas and 2 Hondas up in this lead quartet. Then Chuck Downey, and then another rookie in Tim Sampson, number 117. He runs back in the 6th place position. James Perot on the Kawasaki runs 7th. But there is Weichel, last year's amateur champion, a rookie, as we said, in the pro classes, and he is in the thick of the battle. Oh, and a crasher. Peter Wilson has crashed going into turn number 2.
And that was a pretty hard fall by Fordham Wilson. Let's have another look at it from another camera angle. And if you look, as he rolls the bike into the corner, he's still on the front brake, and he pulls a little too hard. The front wheel goes out from underneath him. He's out for the day. He's okay. He's going to get up and walk around, but no points today for Fordham Wilson.
Tough break for the recently married Peter Fordham Wilson. After that crash in turn 2, that has moved the 12 machine of Owen Weichel up into the 2nd place position. Defending national Pro 600 production champion Lindley Clark runs 3rd. Number 12, Weichel has crashed. The motorcycle going end over end in the air, and the fiberglass bearing completely shattered on that machine. Weichel over to the bike, trying to pick it up, but I think this will be futile.
Well, Weichel looks like he wants to get the Honda going again, Pat. But you know what? I don't think there's a usable part left on the bike. And you talk about frustration. Look at this. He's all done with it, and the long walk home has started for him.
Number 32, Don Monroe, now has been reeled in by Lindley Clark. Clark, who won the qualifying heat here yesterday to start on the pole position, works his way out onto the back straightaway. Good battle here between 871 Perot and 54 Kowalski.
Well, we're going to get a chance to see what happened to
Kawasaki, and of course for next year, Kawasaki has a brand new 600 that should be very competitive in this class, and right now Perot doing a great job on the ZX6. Into the hairpin, Monroe being pressured all the time, every corner. Clark is showing the wheel. Monroe knows he's there, and now Clark trying to work the draft down the back straightaway, but it's still Monroe, your leader.
Well, Clark doesn't look like he wants to take a chance at putting a wheel in on the less experienced Don Monroe. And I asked him earlier how he might do that.
It's going to be tough. He's riding hard. I don't know if I can pick up an advantage. I know the Yamaha's got a little bit more low-end power, so maybe I'll try and use that later in the race if he happens to be in front of me to try and get by him before the checkered.
This battle between Clark and Monroe, a good one, and we're on the last lap as we look a little bit further back. The race for fourth. Kowalski taking over fourth, getting around Perot, and these two have been going back and forth. Perot on the Kawasaki and Mark Kowalski on the Honda CBR 600 F2. Part of the crowd enjoying the action. The leader, Monroe, followed by Clark, off the end of the back straightaway as the Honda-Yamaha battle for the lead continues. Monroe running Dunlop tires, and Clark on the Bridgestones. Into Allen's corner for the final time. Clark will try it on the outside, and Monroe will hold him off. Just one corner to go. Here comes Lindley Clark to the outside. No, he will not be able to get around Monroe. The checkered flag at the line, and Don Monroe has won round number 3. An impressive run for Monroe. Clark finishing second.
And a great race enjoyed by this Shannonville crowd. So Don Monroe with the win is the new Pro 600 production points leader, followed by Clark, Tim Sampson, and Mark Kowalski. Then in 5th is James Perot, Clyde McDonald, Sean Griffiths, and Mark Maisonneuve.
Impressive ride for Monroe, as well as rookie Tim Sampson, who was 3rd. Don't go away. Up next, our feature motorcycle race, round 3 of the Castrol National Superbike Series.
Come back to Shannonville Motorsport Park and the Kawasaki Superbike Challenge. The riders starting in the back. Benoit Pilon is currently second in the point standings. He had problems in the qualifier yesterday. On the front row, 3 of the 4 Japanese manufacturers represented in Kawasaki, Suzuki, and Yamaha. Now here's Craig Hill with the front row of the grid.
And as usual, that number 1, Steve Crevier, is on the pole, and that makes 3 out of 3 Superbike races. Next to him is Yamaha-mounted Lindley Clark from Barrie, Ontario, and this is his home track. Third is Hollywood Mike Taylor on another Kawasaki ZX7. Michael's getting to be no stranger to the front row. And starting on the outside on the work Suzuki Canada 750 is Jeff Gaynor.
Row number 2 has Johnny Ramsey on the McMurdo Racing Honda RC30. Mario Duhamel making his first Superbike start along with Steve Weitz. Row 3, Peter Fordham, Wilson, Neil Jenkins, the rookie James Perreault, and Calgary's Jimmy DeWitt. Row number 4, another rookie in Owen Weichel on a Kawasaki, Peter Marsh and Philippe Savard. Back in row 5, it is Mark Maisonneuve, Clyde McDonald, Mark Kowalski, and Sean Smythe. And then in the final row, Don Canet and David Klassen. Riders revving up those 130 horsepower Superbikes. There you see the front row. And now all eyes focused on the starting lights here at Shannonville. We're on green and away. Lindley Clark, number 26, Crevier, Gaynor the charge to turn 1, and it's Lindley Clark who grabs the early lead. Clark getting away quickly on the Rick Hobbs Yamaha. Here comes Crevier trying to outbrake Gaynor into turn 2, and yes, Crevier will go through on the inside to take over that second place position, but Lindley Clark getting off to the quick start leads them on the Yamaha as they come into the carousel. 26, Lindley Clark, your race leader. Crevier, number 1 on the Kawasaki, running in second. And then it's Jeff Gaynor on the number 28 Suzuki Canada GSXR 750 in third. 15, Mike Taylor running fourth. That front-running group of 4 riders have broken out of the pack as they head up to turn 6. But it's Lindley Clark, your race leader, followed by Crevier, then Gaynor as they go through turn 7. Crevier looking very, very impressive here yesterday in winning the qualifying heat for his 3rd consecutive Sunoco Gold pole position. Through the S's for the first time, Clark by just a few bike lengths. Things starting to tighten up now. Mike Taylor, that 4th place rider, has been caught by number 76, Mario Duhamel. Duhamel moving up along with Weitz, and then 163, Benoit Pilon. So the freight train of Superbikes off the end of the back straightaway. Here's Crevier on the inside, and Steve Crevier will take the lead.
And Pat, we've got a red flag. This race is going to be stopped, and the riders are going to get the red flag right here at the start-finish line. Number 99, John Ramsey on the McMurdo Racing Honda RC30 went off someplace around corner 7.
There's Johnny getting to his feet, but obviously he has taken a pretty hard tumble. I do not believe he'll be able to go here in the restart, as they'll be trying to line up the Superbike machines to restart this Kawasaki Superbike Challenge event. There's part of the crowd. The umbrellas are out. A light sprinkle has been falling off and on, but the Superbike's back in position on the grid. There you see Rick Hobbs, Harold Surian, and along with Mike Crompton giving last-minute instructions to their riders as we're back on green at Shannonville as the Superbikes go charging into turn 1. Side by side, Crevier and Clark. There's Benoit Pilon, 163, going around several riders as they run up out of turn 1, but it's Crevier grabbing the early lead. Clark 26 in second, 15, Michael Taylor running in the 3rd place spot. Out of turn 3, it's Crevier taking the early lead after Clark had moved out in front on the original start, but again, a red flag coming out following the Johnny Ramsey crash. Johnny not able to go here in the restart. Crevier, followed by Lindley Clark, then it's Mike Taylor running 3rd, moving up into 4th will be the number 76 machine of Mario Duhamel. So Mario on the Alex Bertium Honda having a good ride up into 4th. Through the S's, it's Crevier on that Kawasaki. Clark challenging as they come into the hairpin. Clark on the inside will take the lead. A superb passing move by Lindley Clark as he goes back out in front. Crevier holding on to 2nd. Then it's Taylor in 3rd, Duhamel 4th, Jeff Gaynor on the Suzuki running 5th. But Lindley Clark, Craig, showing some horsepower and some very aggressive riding.
Well, Lindley's a good rider too, you know, and he's got some horsepower to show when he needs it, particularly on those straightaways. But, you know, Crevier's shadowing him pretty close, and it's not over yet.
Out of turn 15, they come back on the pit straightaway at Shannonville. There's Taylor in third, followed by Duhamel, and then Gaynor. There's the 6th place rider, 163, Benoit Pilon. The race for the lead out of turn 1 here at Shannonville. Crevier looking in on the inside. A superb outbreaking move as Crevier pushes the Kawasaki back out in front.
Well, as I said, it was only a matter of time when Crevier would make his move on Clark. The Kawasaki makes a tremendous amount of horsepower, and Crevier, along with Clark, is no stranger to this circuit. I asked the other Team Kawasaki rider, Michael Taylor, if he was getting a little tired of playing the role of number 2 to Steve Crevier.
Well, actually, I've been thinking about that a lot this weekend. I'm real confident that the team has got the bike together to a point where it's capable of winning a race. It's just a point of getting my mindset where I can win one of these things. And to be honest with you, I'm real tired of being number 2. I want to win tomorrow more than anything.
Well, Michael has some catching up to do. Right now, he runs back in the 3rd place position, well back of this battle for the lead. It has been a seesaw battle back and forth. Crevier will lead them into the hairpin. Lindley Clark right there in 2nd. Now, Mike Taylor coming under pressure from 28 Jeff Gaynors. They go through the hairpin and out onto the back straightaway. Mike Crompton has really developed this Suzuki, and down the back straightaway, he is giving Taylor a pretty good run for 3rd. Meanwhile, Crevier and Clark through the chicane back into Allen's corner. Very close between the Kawasaki and Yamaha.
Well, Clark's not letting Crevier get away from him, and you know, Pat, at this time in the race, you got to be careful you run your own race, and be careful of the head games that Crevier can play with you. Not let him dominate you psychologically as well as physically. It's very important to run your own race.
We're looking at 3 pretty good 2-rider scraps. This is the battle for the lead between Crevier and Clark. Then Taylor and Gaynor going at it for 3rd, and then a pretty good fight for the 5th place spot between Wykes and Benoit Pilon. There is Crevier by just a couple of bike lengths as they come through into this tricky little double apex left-hander at turn 6. Now they go right through turn 7, and Clark is right there on that Yamaha. There is Gaynor and Taylor, and then right behind him now Benoit Pilon, 163, running in 5th. Steve Wykes, number 14, is 6th, and they are closing on Gaynor and Taylor as Gaynor now has moved around Mike Taylor to take over 3rd. Out of the hairpin, it is Crevier followed by Clark. Mike Taylor may be suffering the effects of a crash earlier today in a production race where he hurt his hand, because he's not riding quite as aggressively as he did here yesterday in the qualifier. Gaynor holding that 3rd place spot. Here comes Crevier and Clark into turn 11 off the end of that back straightaway. Still just a couple of bike lengths separating the pair.
Well, you can see Jeff Gaynor is gradually pulling away from Michael Taylor, and I asked Jeff earlier how the development was progressing on the new Suzuki.
We've had a little bit of problems with the front suspension, and that I just can't flick it into the turns as hard as I'd like to. So I end up over braking for some of the turns and going slower in the middle, where normally I'd like to carry a bit more cornering speed. But when we get it developed, I mean, it's only the 3rd time out for the bike, and already we're going faster than I was on last year's Superbike. So I'm real confident with the bike that a few little adjustments here and there, and I think we can win on it.
Well, the 2 riders going for the win here at Shannonville. Number 1, Steve Crevier. Number 26, Lindley Clark. As we look at the new 3rd place rider, number 14. Oh, big slide by Steve Wykes, but he has moved ahead of Jeff Gaynor to take over the 3rd place spot. And we'll be back with the conclusion of round 3 of the Castrol National Superbike Series after this.
Welcome back to Shannonville Motorsport Park. This is round number 3 of our 6-race series for the Canadian Championship. And number 1, Steve Crevier, as he has for the last 2 races, dominates this event.
There you can see the rest of the top 5. Benoit Pilon, Mario Duhamel, Peter Fordham Wilson, Weichel, and Perot round out the top 10. This has been the story of the race since it was restarted following the Johnny Ramsey crash. Steve Crevier, number 1, the defending Superbike champion on the Kawasaki, being pursued by 26, Lindley Clark on the Yamaha. 14, his teammate Steve Wykes, a rookie Superbike rider, having his best ride of the year. He runs in 3rd. 28, Jeff Gaynor on the Suzuki Canada 750 runs in the 4th place position. And right now, Crevier doing all he can to try to shake Clark, but he's not able to do it. Here's the battle for 5th, 163, Benoit Pilon on the inside of 15, Mike Taylor, and he will take over 5th. So Taylor evidently suffering the effects of that crash in an earlier production race. Oh, big slide by Lindley Clark. He's off the track at the entrance into the S's. Lindley Clark got into a big slide. Craig, I think there may be a problem with the machine.
Well, it looks like Clark's got a small oil fire going on back there. You know, the marshals have arrived with the extinguisher, but things look more or less under control. That's a tough break for Lindley. He looks set to make a last lap move on the leader, Steve Crevier, Pat.
While the blue and white last lap flag is out here at start finish, we look at number 76, Mario Duhamel, the older brother of Grand Prix star Miguel Duhamel. He runs in 4th. 15, Mike Taylor back in the 5th place spot. Here's James Perot, 871 off the racetrack, but he will continue. Less than a lap to go for Steve Crevier, looking for his 3rd Superbike win of the year. Crevier through turn 11, headed for the chicane. He was 2nd in this event a year ago, but that began his incredible run to the championship in 1991, and he's been also dominant this year. A little bit of a wheelie out of Allen's corner, coming through the final right-hander onto the pit straightaway. Big wheelie for Crevier as he takes the checkered flag for the win in this Kawasaki Superbike Challenge event. Steve Crevier scoring another impressive victory.
Well, what more can we say about this superb Canadian Superbike rider? Crevier takes not only his 3rd pole position, but his 3rd win in a row. He's followed by Steve Wykes, that's his best finish, Gaynor, Duhamel, and Taylor. Then in 6th, it's Pilon, Fordham Wilson, Wyko, Perot, and Peter Marsh. Now here's Pat Gonzalez, along with Kawasaki Canada rep Jim Ellis with the presentation.
Winner of the 11th annual Kawasaki Superbike Challenge, his 3rd win in a row from Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, Kawasaki rider Steve Crevier.